whatever you're doing, if you believe in yourself, I think that is the route. Like, because there's no one way. There are always new ways being discovered, new things being done, and there's no right and wrong. It's only where you're meant to be.
You have to have a can-do mentality. You know, the people that don't believe in themselves, they'll never be able to make things happen. And the moment that an artist takes that leap of faith to really believe, then they can start emerging, and then they can start really making things happen and take autonomy of their career. Being in the mentality of like, you can make things happen. Or if the traditional route looks a little bit difficult, find an untraditional route to make that happen. Community is paramount, and especially in the arts. When you can band together and be that support network for each other, that's when you can collectively start winning. Work hard, build community, believe in yourself. Anything is possible.
I think what I learned from you, and you're a great storyteller. Let me also frame that for you. I think I was so hooked all throughout your stories, and something that I could really take away from is that, what is one difference between sometimes is you did not wait in the beginning, nor have you waited in all of these stories that you've spoken about and shared. Like, from the first start, when you started, when you did not have a gallery space, you made do with whatever you had. And I'm sure if you wouldn't have done that, you wouldn't have met Lisa. If you wouldn't have met Lisa, you wouldn't have had met that lady, the one that rented you the first, gifted you the first place. And if you wouldn't have if you didn't have that instability, let's say in the sense of, like, not being able to stay at one place, sometimes, us what we look at as our weakness, sometimes they work as our strengths, and that is not sometimes that we really remind ourselves, and we keep thinking about, I will do this when I reach this point. I will call myself an artist or a galleryist when I have a gallery, or I am successful when I'm doing that. Versus you start just as you are, and you. So there's a word in Hindi. I know you know Hindi, but there's a word in Hindi that we say, which is called jugaad, which is India, which is very famous for, which is like a way of saying DIY or make do yourself. It's like you always have a way around doing something that you cannot. Like, if I don't have, let's say, if I don't, it's like in India, if you see that the people are so creative because limited resources, not everybody has everything. Like, it's not it's a huge population, and that's what it's called, like jugaad in India, which is like, if you do not have, let's say, if you're a family of four people, and if you have to travel and you have one scooty or a motorbike, so what people would do is they would add, like, let's say, a chair on the left, on a right, on a maybe one behind, keep where two people sit, they will make three people or four people sit. So it's like they will do with whatever they have. They will find a way around it and just make it with it. And I think what is so inspiring about everything that you've shared is that you really like everything taking up as a challenge, and like not really thinking like, oh, it's not going to happen to me, or like who's going to, but really all of this, you do make that happen to yourself.
Right. And I think that type of optimism and that type of like mentality is what's really important, because I will say, even the article that that Lisa read, that is the reason why she called, was about the Whitney exhibition that we did with Apostrophe NYC with Base 12. And that all came about because I sat all 12 of those artists down in the basement of my mother's house, and we went around the table, and I said, where does everyone want to be showing? And they said, across the board. I said, in your wildest dream, where do you want to see your work? And they said a museum, every single one, a museum, a museum, a museum, a museum. And then I said, we're at this time, we're all in our kind of like early 20s and stuff like this. I said, honestly, the classic avenues of kind of acquisitions and getting works into the museum, it will be very difficult for us to do that. But instead of saying no, I said, what? How can we make that happen? And we did. It was really fun. I went to the I went into the Whitney Museum multiple times, many times, like 5, 10 times or something like this. And I looked, every single time I knew I would go and scout out the place to know where every single camera was and to figure out where the security was at what time and to figure out where the, everything was. You kind of like almost like the same way that you'd look at a space if you were taking something out, except we were putting something in. And so, just really going, taking notes. Okay, this. And then I realized that, okay, actually on the day that is the free day on the whatever, First Friday or whatever they end up doing like this, 90% of the staff actually goes to the front of the house to deal with all the people coming in, including most of the security. So I realized that, okay, if everyone's going to be down there like this creates this opportunity where you have this one stairwell that will be completely empty, and it'll be quite some time until anyone will, like any staff or or security will be in this space. And so that's where we decided to stage the exhibition. And I also thought it was really interesting because in the new Whitney building, there wasn't artworks in that stairwell, and in the old Whitney building up on Madison Ave, there was always artwork in the stairwell, which I loved. And so we actually designed the paintings to be on suction cups and to suction to the windows because
Yeah, quick and
I
fast.
yeah, quick, fast, and not breaking any vandalism laws. So I very carefully read all of the vandalism laws and realized, if we're sticking a hole into the wall, that could be considered vandalism. That could be, putting the artist's artworks and gallery in jeopardy. And so we had to figure out different ways to hang all of those kind of guerrilla style exhibitions in non-intrusive kind of ways. And so it was like even so that exhibition, we ended up all coming in at 6:30, paying to come into the museum at 6:30, and then we all knew each artist. I think there was 3 per floor, and we were doing it across 4 floors. And we knew right at 7, everyone had a little alarm on their clock, on their phone and stuff like this. And right at 7, there was going to be a big at one. Everyone was going to open up, and we were going to go and click everything to the wall, just like this, and then step away. And so we'd go push everything to the wall and step away, and then just kind of start seeing reactions and kind of seeing how things would go. And I think that some of the most fascinating comments to me during that exhibition were the really banal ones. They were the ones of like this couple being like, "Oh, I didn't see this last time we were here." And it was really fascinating to see that how much context plays into where people's perception of artworks, people's perception of value.
How it's presented.
Exactly. So it's like if it's in the context of the museum, the assumption is that this is important. It has to be something. And we had even worked with friends of ours, my friend that actually made the Keysmith Gallery logo, Baby Man, and he had gotten the font exactly of the Whitney, and we had gone and made the name tags exactly like it and everything. Like the details were down to the T. And then about 45 minutes later, a guard did kind of see what was going on, got confused, grabbed one of the pieces off of the wall, and then was like, and I knew, oh, kind of jigs up. And then I kind of yelled up the stairwell, grab whichever painting, get out of here. And everyone just kind of grabbed whichever one and started running out. And that actually made the craziest kind of scene, because all of the sudden people are like yelling because they're seeing someone kind of grab a painting and throw it in their jacket. They thought we were just stealing paintings at this point. And then so they thought that all these different artists and stuff were just like grabbing paintings and running out. And so it created this kind of huge chaos scene. And then I ended up going up to the guard, and he had taken 2 paintings, and my brother and I kind of went up there and started speaking to them. And then what ended up happening there was they said, we're going to give you guys the paintings back in exchange, but we're going to give you a lifetime ban. So you're never allowed back in the Whitney, but but we'll give you these pieces back and whatever, because it wasn't breaking any vandalism laws. I explained that and all this different things like this. So we got the pieces back, and we still have the full set that showed at the Whitney. And then it was actually very interesting, because a little bit of a full circle moment is this spring, I actually reached out to the Whitney to speak, and I had a long conversation, about an hour-long conversation with their head of communications, and they said that
They lift the ban.
yeah, essentially, they said that, you're more than welcome back. That lifetime ban was very harsh, and that's not kind of what they meant, and and all this type of stuff like this. And I'll be honest, I haven't officially gone back yet. So I actually haven't been to the museum since then. I will at some point go when it feels appropriate. But I officially, I think, am allowed back in the museum, which is really kind of fun. And I think that I'll make the comeback. I'd love to, one day get a little bit more involved there and stuff like this. That would be a real honor. And I think that when the timing's right, there might be something down the line that we could do together potentially and stuff like that. So I think that that's kind of fun, because also that's only possible because in the years between that guerrilla pop-up exhibition and now, the galleries really pushed, and a lot of the artists have really pushed, and we've all kind of been making things happen, and progressing careers, and kind of making sure that, at the end of the day, we're making things happen in the arts. And I think that, a lot of artists, a lot of even dealers and stuff like this have had untraditional art starts in the arts. And I think that that's one of the beautiful things. There isn't a traditional path of like, this is how you become an artist. This is how you become an art dealer. This is how you become a gallerist. And I think that that's something that's amazing, because even in your story as an artist, it's like, it's a different, everyone has a different story. It's like, there's no, this is how someone becomes an artist.
You just said it's the mindset. Like, I think I've spoken to so many galleries by now, and by far your story is one that stands out the most. Is also because you didn't, I think a lot of time, like you said, it's the mindset. Um, you didn't pick up the persona of a traditional gallerist or whatever that meant to look like. And that was a question I would ask you after just this. You know, a lot of people, oh, I'm a gallerist. I'm I'm not, just the sake of having fun, of truly like not driving by a name or the tag of being an artist or being a gallerist or being a dealer, but truly really enjoying. And I think you really did, from what I have imbibed by now, is like you truly enjoy the challenge of selling art, of communicating that story, of um, art of persuasion, let's say, and also having that risk and thrill and all of that. And if that so be it, as a gallerist, as a dealer with a gallery, tomorrow an architect, or like, the possibilities could be endless. It's just the mindset that takes it through that stage.
I totally believe that. And I think that even what you're saying about risk and taking risk, I love that idea. And that's even something that I even was further inspired by one of our clients, Francis Greenberger, who actually has an autobiography called Risk Game. And it's all about him taking risk, and how that risk actually directly played into his success. And he's an incredibly successful developer, as well as in books, and and in the arts. He has Art Oh My. He's a prolific entrepreneur, and but it's all about taking risks. And I think that that's something that even when I was reading his book, I was like, wow, it was very inspiring in that sense, because I do think that a lot of the time people are really hesitant to take risk. And I think that I actually feel very lucky that I didn't come from, a position where I think a lot of galleries do have outside funding, or do have maybe family money coming in, or something, or bringing money from another job, or something like this, where there is that kind of cushion, that buffer. And I always kind of say, if you have nothing to lose, you're gonna take more risk. So it's like if you're not if you know that the alternative is not that great, you're gonna go and take more risks, and you're gonna be a little bit hungrier. You're gonna be go and put in the extra hours. You're gonna go and want to put in 16-hour days of construction and different things like this. And I think that in that sense, I feel very lucky and very grateful that is the origin story. That is the kind of background where I never was, in a position to get the kind of like funding, whatever, different things like this. So I never got written a check or brought money in or anything like this. I got incredibly fortunate with the generosity of
The early,
of the Harlem space by the Avitals, and then, but I do think that being an art gallery and actually never having the luxury of operating at a loss is an incredibly crazy kind of thing. We never operated at a loss. Year on year, 4 years in a row, we expanded locations without taking out loans, without borrowing money, without anything. And that's why even when I said to get this lease, I didn't want to go and ask for money or ask for loan or try to see if I could get a small business loan or something like this. I said, if we can't make the money in the business that we do, which is selling paintings, selling sculptures, then we're not gonna. It doesn't make sense, So if I can go and sell these to make that, then I will also have the confidence that yes, you know what, this is a big risk, and we are gonna go and succeed, and we'll get through this. So even that, like even with the build out, we were completely out of money. The security deposit was huge. I had to pay out all the artists and everything like this. So, by the end of it, that big $50,000 drive or whatever, stuff like this was basically no money at the end because, security deposit goes like this, everything kind of
yeah,
disappears.
a business takes a hell amount of resources
It's
to run.
crazy. And so I did the whole build out on credit cards. And at the end of the whole thing, I'm we have this beautiful new space. It's the dead of winter. I have no heat in here. Over $20,000 in credit card debt, and I say, you know what, we gotta go. And I have a 10-year lease here. There's one way out. It's selling paintings. It's selling sculptures, and it's bringing in more and more quality program. And I think that where I really saw the first big shift of where I started feeling, you know what, this is really the momentum really started shifting with an exhibition that a very close friend of mine, Sasha Feldman, had brought to me. And Sasha Feldman came to me right after we did the build out, and he said, I was just on the phone with an old professor of mine at the Art Institute of Chicago, and he's this artist, William J. O'Brien, who's the chair of the Art Institute of Chicago, the chair of ceramics. And he said, I was speaking to him the other day, and I was speaking to him a little bit about your gallery, and I would love to potentially suggest having a 2-person show with me and him this spring. And I said, I would love that. And if he's open, this would be amazing, because he was a larger artist and is actually an artist that was most recently represented by the gallery Marion Boesky, who's a big gallery in New York. And they had kind of parted ways just because it made sense for both of them to kind of go their separate ways. And so that opened up the opportunity for him to show in other places in New York. And right out of that, we started putting this exhibition together, and it was a whole exhibition of ceramics. And we actually one night, Sasha and I were talking about how we wanted to display these works, and he said, why don't we build a big pyramid in the middle? And I said, great, sick, that's an awesome idea, let's build a big ziggurat in the middle. And so we did. And and we did, and we had a whole collection. We actually drove out to cut costs. Sasha and I drove all the way out to Chicago, picked up works from Bill, and I also say it's amazing because having that vote of confidence from an artist that has had such a prolific career and such a established career and has worked with really major galleries and is in museum collections and is incredibly successful in his own right. So to have that vote of confidence from him to allow us to show the works was a real privilege. And I was, and that was really amazing, and that also allowed us to kind of be bringing in larger clients that were around but never kind of had invested in and stuff like this. And so I think that that was really amazing. And so that exhibition was this spring, and we sold almost all of Sasha's works, and we also were able to sell one of Bill's larger pieces, which was really amazing, and that piece ended up selling to the Tisch collection, which was really amazing and an incredible honor. And I think that that exhibition was the first time that we really started seeing big sales at the gallery. And I think that taking that momentum was really amazing. And so then after that, we had an exhibition with James Reyes where we sold some pieces, and then this fall we had a big exhibition with Charlie Hudson, and then right after that we did an exhibition with the artist in Divi Sutton and sold over, I think, 20 of 26 paintings or something like this. So we really started seeing that momentum come, and at this point, obviously all the credit card debt has been wiped and everything is, we're back in black. And it's been really great because it's also been a little bit of trust, to know that, hey, we're going to keep on going and we're going to keep on
And the
making
faith in your own
things.
self.
Exactly, and know that we can go make things happen. And then this year I'm really excited about. We're at the beginning of the year, and I'm really excited because this year we're putting a little bit of a focus on bringing in some larger artists, and bringing in some kind of almost more museum quality exhibitions and stuff like this. We're about to actually open an exhibition with Kiyomi Quinn Taylor, who's one of ours, who I'm super excited about. And then the exhibition after hers is going to be an exhibition of video works by Andy Warhol. So it'll be a whole Warhol show, curated by the director of film and video, Greg Pierce, the director of film and video at the Andy Warhol Museum. And it's going to be across 2 floors. We're going to have not all of the screen tests, there's a lot, but we're going to have an incredible selection of the screen tests that are very focused on kind of New York icons, New York people in the arts, in poetry, in dance. And we're also going to have one of the very special, one of the screen tests, which is a double projected one of the Velvet Underground. So that's going to be really exciting, and I think that it's really great for also our artists, folks like Kiyomi, folks like Indivi, like Charlie, like Ryan, like James Reyes, for them to be showing at the same gallery as an Andy Warhol, as folks like William J. O'Brien. We're also in conversation. We're going to have some conversations next week about bringing in another big artist in the September show and stuff like this. So I think that, now that we finally have the moment where we can kind of sit back and be a little bit more strategic on how we pick shows and stuff like this, we can really be putting our artists in lane for more success. And I think that that's kind of like, I've never been interested in being a feeder gallery or being a stepping stone gallery. If you're not, if you're if
Long
you're
game.
in, yeah, if your ambition isn't to, I don't want to win, right? I don't want to win in the game. I want to be the best to ever do it. So it's like, if you don't have that ambition to go and do it, it's very difficult to go and make things happen. And then even like the exhibition we have now of Lataro Kurika, this is amazing. Like, this is an exhibition of an artist that I've looked up to for years and years and years. He's in some different museum collections. He's in the Jorge Perez collection. He's shown in the Southampton Art Center. And he makes these larger scale works that I was never really able to show. But now we have the larger space and I'm able to properly exhibit. And so I think that it's really great to be kind of finally we're entering our second year of operations in this space. And I think it's also really great because even year on year since 2019, every year we expanded in the summer. And this summer I said, you know what? This summer we're not going to do a physical expansion because we have a big space. We have 2 floors right now. We're going to do our first internal expansion. And the internal expansion was hiring our gallery manager, Emma Reed, and that's really exciting. So to finally have a team and have a full-time employee to go and be helping with operations and making something, and all of a sudden being from a one crazy person show to like having a little bit of a team and
I
like making.
imagine things you've made happen with. I think it does take one crazy person to make
Yeah,
all of this happen. I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
think if
yeah.
you're not crazy enough, it really would have been possible
No,
because
you have to be a little bit crazy.
yeah, you have to be like you really have to be a lot crazy to make to take those risks, to believe in yourself. And I keep saying this to like a lot of when we work and the artists we work with, if you do not trust in, if you're not crazy enough, even if you're like, even I feel like I'm the worst at this moment, even if I know that and I'm not crazy enough to believe in myself and invest in myself when I think it's a worst decision, nobody else will ever do that.
No one else will ever do it. And you have to be hungry for it. You have to want it. Like even in the build out, there was a day that they delivered these sheets of plywood that are 100 pounds each, and they delivered 70 of them or something a block away, and it's pouring rain. And I'm lifting these things one at a time all the way down like this. By the 20th one, I was like, I'm gonna die. And there was still 50 more to do. And each one I lifted up and I said, how badly do you want this? How badly do you want this? You go and you find the strength inside of yourself to go, how badly do you want that? And I think it is like that you have to really be determined. And I think that, that can be okay when it gets into physical labor, that can be almost to my fault. There was a day 6 weeks into the build out that I wasn't sleeping that much, and I was working like kind of a lot. And then there was one day I was biking down and I felt like dizzy. I didn't feel good. I felt like sick and dizzy. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go to my mom's house that's not that far away from the gallery. I'm gonna take a 1 hour nap because I don't think it's borderline not safe to go. And so I
You
go
have to be crazy, but you don't have to be extremely unsafe.
and I feel like if I thought that it was unsafe, it was probably like crazy unsafe.
That is true. I
Because
can imagine that
I
by
went
now.
I went to go to sleep for 1 hour. I set my alarm 1 hour. I said I can give up 1 hour of work. I woke up 2 days later. My I just I It was crazy. And then I was like immediately like I ran right back to work and started doing construction and stuff like this because and then I had to call some friends to help catch me up on these the days that I lost and stuff like this.
I
But
hope 2024 is a moment of breath for you. I truly hope. A big, big, wide breath.
yeah,
A
I think
good
it's
breath.
good. A good breath, but also bringing in more programming and stuff. And then also it was like seeing that
See, you
community.
couldn't stay there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do anything that I do without the community that I have around me. The artists that I work with and my friends and stuff, they were who brought me to the finish line of this space. This is not
It is
possible
another
without
crazy.
the
It is another crazy. It takes another crazy to believe in one more crazy. It's a
exactly.
whole chain. It's a whole
Exactly.
chain.
No, it's true. And the last week of the build out here, it was like, I still get goosebumps thinking about it. It's like the moment of It's a Wonderful Life when everyone kind of comes and is like, goes and helps and makes something possible because one person can't do it. One person can't do it. It takes a village, and I think that building that community around is something I've always put a really big emphasis on. And I think that to be a gallery where at the openings you see the other artists that show there, that's something that so many people have said is so special. You don't see the other artists that whatever gallery is represents, and all of these other artists that they work with are all at the opening, all supporting. If you come next week, It's like a family. It's like a family. And I think that that's like, people like we recently in December went to our very first art fair, our very first major art fair, Scope, which was an incredible honor to be at. And we worked really closely with the team at Scope to help create this new section called the Future section. We helped invite other galleries into it, and then we brought actually two artists down. We brought James Reyes and we also brought my mother, and it was an incredible success. And it was also another one of these big moments where, like, you know what, that's another step of taking it to the major leagues of like, okay, now we're doing art fairs. Now we're, kind of like we're on that next echelon. So it's like, I really think that as a gallery, I'm always trying to think about, okay, now great, but how can we get to the next step? How can we get to the next?
What's
Like
next?
even, yeah, like even bringing in the Warhol show. That's okay. Now we're a gallery that's going and showing some larger artists and stuff like this. Now we're at a major fair like Scope, and I think that it's also such an amazing thing to be at a fair like Scope because they've also put such an emphasis on supporting emerging gallerists and emerging artists and kind of putting an emphasis on collecting contemporary. And I think that it makes it a really good fit for us because, that's their passion, that's my passion. And right now that makes the most sense. And I think that, it was amazing when we brought James Reyes' works down. There's people I'm speaking to at the booth, and they said, "Oh, how long have you worked with this artist?" And I said, "Oh, geez, 11 years." And then 11 years? How old are you? 32. And I said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, well, the first show he ever had was out of college. It was a group show of recently graduated SVA students. He had some pieces in it. That was 2012." Or yeah, 2012 or maybe 2013 or whatever it was like this. And that's when we started working together. And ever since we've worked together and we've built our careers in tandem. And
Together.
yeah, and I think to have that reassurance where you start by showing objects that are $1,000 maybe, barely, something like this, to fast forward 10 years or something like this, and we sold a couple of paintings of his for 20,000 at the fair. One to a museum collection, one to a client in Europe. I think to have that trust to be building with each other is really
And
amazing.
also knowing that the people that you're choosing, they're also constantly improving. Like it's like two wheels continuously oiling themselves so that the engine could be faster. It's like if even one sticks, if one doesn't do the work that it needs to do, the other would have to hold himself or herself back. It's like a marriage.
Exactly. It's like a marriage. I think with all of the artists I work with, it's like a marriage. You got to go and have good communication and make things work and kind of and know that you're on the same team. Like I think that it was really amazing, like even to cut costs down at the fair, because I'm always, we still have to be cutting costs everywhere. And I drove my van down with James, me and James in the car, and it was actually a little bit crazy. I still do crazy things a little bit. Like we opened this exhibition. We had been installing all week, like crazy, crazy, barely installing stuff like this. We opened the exhibition. I cleaned it up at around 9. We start packing the car up at like 10. And then we get on the road at midnight and we drive 20 something hours straight. Me and James just drive 20 something hours straight to Miami because that's the only way we could get um, to there in time for install of the fair that next Saturday morning or whatever it was like this. So we drive nonstop, taking shifts, whatever, every 4 or 5 hours, switch over, whatever. And then um and then we get to his place down in Miami and kind of immediately get right to work. First we do a little tinkering around at his apartment, fix some AC system and stuff like this, and then immediately he was like, "Hey bro, you want to just go to like Home Depot and kind of like get a head start on things?" So I was like, yeah, let's go. So we get back in the van, we go to Home Depot and buy all these tools and stuff like this, and then we're up till 3 in the morning painting frames so that we're ready for the morning. And uh, then 8 a.m. start installing, make things all happen. And even at the fair, we ended up replastering all the wall. We're a little bit crazy sometimes like this, but it was amazing, and we really put in the extra effort, put in the extra work to make everything happen, and I think that that's not possible without artists that also believe, and that
Yeah,
artists that aren't like,
absolutely, for sure.
yeah, like even something like that, like James. I look at him like family. You know what I mean? It's like, and so many of the artists that I work with, I really do. I look at like family, and we see each other as, we're a family. We build together. We make things happen together. We take the losses together. We take the wins together. And I think that's the really important thing with any team. You're not going to win everything, but you have to go, and
Absolutely.
you're
There
not
are
going to
some days
win.
that
Yeah,
some
there's
good
going to be
days,
hard days,
and you
and
have
there's
to
going to
live
be,
both.
exactly, and you have to be able to, from the exhibitions you don't sell, you have to be able to critique and learn from, and from the exhibitions you do sell, you have to still be able to critique and learn from. So I think that,
Yeah, and stay on the ground.
constantly, yeah, you want to be constantly going and working with, and hey, um I said, even this spring or this fall, Charlie said, "Hey, he didn't see his exhibition as a huge success." And I said, "Wait, what metrics are you using?" Because I said, "Let me ask a couple questions." I said, "Was this the best work you ever made?" He said, "Oh yeah, of course." I said, "Oh, okay, so this is one metric that's very important." And I said, "Did we sell almost all the pieces that we sold to new clients?" He said, "Oh yeah, well that's true." I said, "This is another incredible metric." Like, so I said, what metrics are you using that this wasn't a successful show? Because we're expanding your clientele, you're making the best work you ever made, and these are the metrics that I'm looking at. I said, when I'm judging a show, these are two very important metrics of success. And so he said, "Oh, when you look at it this way, you're right. It is a successful show." And I said, "Of course, there's still things that we can build off of. And of course, we can still go and have a conversation and see how we can make things better." Because I said, "You know what? The next show we do together, it's also, I want you to be able to say, this is the best work I've ever made." And I think that that's important. So it is, and sometimes artists are incredibly self-critical. I think, he's an incredibly, critiquing himself, and sometimes you have to be like, wait, step back for a second. Like, hey, we sold a lot of works. Most of it was to new clients, and you and I both can consider it the best work that you ever made. Okay, these are pretty good metrics. So I think that that's also like, constantly thinking about how you can continue to improve, because no matter how long we do the business and no longer how long anything goes, improving, you gotta continue. It's like what I was saying at the very beginning about education as a mindset. You know what I mean? You have to constantly be thinking education as a mindset, even,
Life teaches you, your experience teaches you.
yeah. And I think that that's really important. Like, even, something that's really exciting is like, with the Warhol show that's coming up, it's going to be all video works, right? Which means they're not going to be for sale, which means that we're taking the legs out of our main business, right? Our our main business, how I make the rent, is the selling the paintings. So I say, that's okay, because two things. One, we also have an incredible stage downstairs, and we have incredible booking of performances, and it's actually amazing because, you know, surprise, one of the artists that I work with very closely, Ryan, is someone that helps an incredible amount with booking and bringing in acts and stuff like this. So, we work with a lot of different folks to bring in music. And so I said, you know what? March and end of February, March, we're going to put an extra emphasis on bringing in music and bringing in these performances, because we can make our rent this way as well. A business needs to have many ways that they can
Many ways
win.
to make a revenue.
And
Yes.
exactly. And so this is another stream of revenue. And this is right now a stream of revenue that we're kind of not as focused on. So it maybe happens once a week. We have a little music performance, whatever, stuff like this. But it's amazing because even the performances that we've had downstairs, on our stage, we've had Grammy Award winning musicians play in this
And
tiny,
also bringing another creative people, another energy,
this
introduce
is the
your own
okay,
people.
this is really important to me, because I always think that when you bring creatives together, this is when special things happen. That's where the magic is. If you just have a bunch of painters in the room, okay, they're going to be a bunch of painters in the room. If you have, a bunch of painters and with sculptors, with musicians, with poets, with writers, with filmmakers, that's and galleries, and that's when the magic
And
kind of
business.
and
Yes.
business. That's when it all starts happening, and that's when you kind of start
Yes.
getting culture. And that's what I'm actually really excited about with the screen test that we're showing, the Warhol screen test. This shows that. This is a direct illustration of that. It's not every single one is an artist. It's you have musicians, you have poets, you have writers, you have dancers. And I think that what I'm so excited about with the collection that Greg Pierce has put together is it really illustrates that. It illustrates that kind of that cultural explosion, that moment where you have a culmination of all different art forms coming together under the same studio in that the kind of legendary factory setting of sorts like this. And you have, artists like Warhol championing musicians and bands like the Velvet Underground, and you have, people like Gian Giorno in this kind of like milieu as well. And like I think it's really exciting when you have that all together. So I think that that's really something that I'm super excited to be exhibiting and kind of showing off.
But also, I think you also facilitate, like, it's also um you willing to, it's like, it said, you attract who you are. The more um you are willing to take risk, you find people who are willing to take risk with you, for you, experiment and play. And that's where sometimes the growth is not where it's safest to grow. In the sense, the most growth is where it's the riskiest to grow. And that's where, when you take that leap, you may fall, and maybe you'll fail at once and twice and thrice and four, but at the fifth time is when maybe that will start to pay off. But also, you would have grown a thicker skin, and your tolerance towards risk would be so much higher that you're willing to do it. It wouldn't be as difficult as it would be in the first place.
I agree with that. And I also think that, I think people also make excuses all the time. Oh, I don't have connections in this. I don't have connections in this. I don't have this. I don't have that. An example of that is this show that I've been talking about, the show of the screen test, the Warhol show. How we got that show, I cold called the museum. I Googled online, what's the thing? I called the front desk. I said, hey, can you transfer me up to the director of film and video? That's, you know what I mean? Like that, you don't need to
Have to
have a
willing to
friend in,
also
you
be
don't need
willing to
to
take no.
take a no. I'll take a no. I actually took a no the first time I called. I called the next day. And then I got up. But it is like willing to take a no. What's the worst? Oh, the worst that happens is we don't get the show. Oh, we didn't have the show on the calendar anyways right now. So take the risk. And I think that that's the most exciting part is being in the mentality of like you can make things happen. Or if the traditional route looks a little bit difficult, find an untraditional route to make that happen.
Whatever you're doing, if you believe in yourself, I think that is the route. Like, because there's no one way. There are always new ways being discovered, new things being done, and there's no right and wrong. It's only where you're meant to be.
Exactly. And I think that's so true, especially in the arts, right? In the arts, that should be the, what people really, the mentality, because I think that is, you have to have a can-do mentality. The people that don't believe in themselves, they'll never be able to make things happen. And the moment that an artist takes that leap of faith to really believe, then they can start emerging, and then they can start really making things happen and take autonomy of their career. And I think that that's what's really exciting. And I think one of the great things about working with younger artists is you get to see that moment where the confidence comes in, and you see that blossom. And I think that is that as a gallery is so rewarding.
Also, working with people of your own age is also like, they might get as crazy as you are.
Exactly. And I think that that's something that I also look up to all the time is gallerists like back in the day, like yeah, like Dick Bellamy, like Paula Cooper, people that really were working with their contemporaries. And I think that I find a lot of inspiration in that. I think that, these are folks that I, obviously look up to their programs and stuff like this. And it's such an honor to be working with folks that are in your same cultural scene, that we are all able to go and hang out and kind of grow together and find ways that we can kind of make things happen together. I think that, you know, I think there's obviously always space for, you know, older gallerists to work with younger artists and stuff like this, but that's not typically as exciting, at least if that's the only thing that's going on in the program and stuff like this. So I think that, you know, I think I love seeing young gallerists. I love seeing young gallerists and young folks starting galleries. Like there was someone that walked into my gallery this past about a year ago. He walked into the gallery and he goes, "Hi, my name's Quentin Blumka. I'm looking to start a gallery and I wanted to pick your brain." I said, "Come sit in my office." And I said, what can I do? Let's make this happen. What you know? I want to hear about you. I want to hear about your story." And he's amazing. You know, his family has operated galleries for 5 generations. They have primarily operated in medieval objects for literally centuries, and he's bringing his family gallery into the contemporary space. So he opened a gallery, Blumka Contemporary, and the very first show that he ever did was actually in the basement of our gallery, which is our second exhibition space that I do from time to time have special collaborations with other galleries, with other curators and stuff like this. And I think, you know, a few months after that conversation is when this show happened. And I think that, you know, and from that, the second show that his gallery ever did was I introduced him to all the folks at Scope, and I said, you know, I know this gallery doesn't have a physical location, but this is a good guy. He's a great dealer. He's an incredible entrepreneur, and he's going to be making things happen. And he'd be an incredible addition to the fair, and will, you know, what he brings to the fair and the artist that he brings to the fair is going to make everyone look good. So, and they let him in to the fair, and he got accepted into the art fair and did a very successful booth with the artist Kelly Wang. And it's really great to see that kind of growth and see that happen. And I will always, like, if I can help someone expedite their success, I will always do that because, you know, for me, yeah, it took me 10 years to get to a major fair. If I can go and make a phone call and make an introduction and say, "Hey, trust this guy. He's awesome." And he's great. I think, you know, he's 25 years old, starting his gallery, and he's going places, and it's awesome. And we're collaborating again in the spring. He's popping up again in our gallery and stuff like this. And it's really great to have also a community of other dealers and a community of other folks that are, you know, can be a support network around you, and we can go and work together. Like, for example, even when he had his show downstairs, I was so happy that two of the sales that he made were to our clients. You know, one to a long-standing client, and one to someone that came in from the gallery that I went and showed our show, and then I went and showed his show. And it's I think that that's really exciting. So I think that, you know, when you are creating those collaborations and creating that kind of atmosphere where I don't I'm a big
You don't
believer.
pitch against each other.
Yeah, other galleries. I love other galleries. Like there's another gallery, Forma Gallery, that my friend Mariana owns. She came to a event that we had at our old gallery on 3rd Street, and after she came up and said, "Hey, I was thinking about maybe opening a gallery. I'm not sure of all that." I said, "Do it. Any advice you need, I'm here as a resource. Let me know. Call me anytime. Anything you need. Like, let's make this happen." And now she just entered her second year of operation. They're an incredible gallery right on Allen Street. They focus on all female artists. They have an incredible program, and I love to see that happen. So, you know, I think that it's great when you can also have a community of artists, but also have a community of dealers, have a community of other
Dealers.
galleries and
Yes,
stuff like
yes,
this.
yeah, that's true. Also share spin-off ideas, know what, they know the waters, they know what you're going through, your own experiences, stop off ideas. And at the end of the day, I think there's always enough, like, um, for a very long time, I think we've worked in a space where we've always been pitched against each other, but there's a whole new tandem where, people when we work in collaborations, and that could be like a magic potion, not only for one, but for all.
For all. And I totally believe that. And that was also really exciting because that was the whole ethos of the future section at Scope. It's going and bringing galleries to get these younger galleries together and kind of banding them together as a community. And I think that that's what I was so excited when they started building out this program and stuff like this, and why I wanted to get so involved. And I think that that's amazing when you have a major art fair going and also taking that same kind of community approach where, let's work together, let's all pitch in to make things happen, and let's all, take that risk together and take those wins together. So I think that that's really amazing.
You know what brings me back to closing this conversation in a way, because you started in the place where you said, it makes you feel home, like the community, how you grew up. And at the end of the day, like and at the beginning of the conversation we started speaking about, where you also said, and I said, like you know all these years we keep moving forward, but we're always unlayering and truly going back to who we were before world happened, life happened, or whatever. And in the conversation that we've had so far, it's like you know growing up in the way that, like you said, you have, or probably I have. I think community has been one of the most essential part. And that is, like when our endeavors, very consciously or unconsciously, we start going back to making the efforts and going back into the ways that we were and trying to recreate those in our future lives.
Hmm. No, I think that that's absolutely correct. I mean, I think that community is paramount, and especially in the arts, when you can band together and be that support network for each other, that's when you can collectively start winning. So I think that so many times there's artists that come from fortunate backgrounds, unfortunate background. It doesn't matter the background, as long as you're banding together and creating community for each other, no one will ever go hungry. And I think that that's the most important thing. And I think that having that trust is like having that community, in my mind, is the same thing as someone that has a golden parachute. It's like it really is, because you know that you'll never be down and out.
Yes, there will always be someone.
There'll always be
um
someone, and you can always get that. You can both make that phone call and receive that phone call, and whoever it is good, and it is a privilege, and it's an honor to go and help your community. And like, whenever you're in your position to help the community, help the community. And I think that that's always something that I do, and always something that I really think of, and continue to put emphasis on. I mean, like, um and even yeah, donating time, donating resources, supporting nonprofits and different things like this, sharing knowledge, sharing resources, sharing clients, sharing things, making things happen together, happen collectively. I think is really, really important. And then I think that, good illustration of community, and when you're building community authentically, you have these moments where, randomly artists just stop by the gallery. Like, look who just came in. I spoke about him earlier, but that's Charlie Hudson. You know what I mean? And this happens all the time, where artists will just stop by the gallery, and that's great. But I think it's really fun, and that happens like almost every day. We're just someone's just stopping by, and I think that
it makes
that
it
always
gives you a big smile, and
it
all
gives me a
these
big
years that you've
smile.
worked. And when you look
Exactly.
back, it's always not the money, the business, how big or small. It's also the relationships and the moments that you, and how, like, from where you came, where you were, and whatever the highs and lows it would be, you experiencing them with people. It's that what we take after all, nothing else.
Exactly. And I think that that's the most important thing. So, yeah, takeaways, work hard, build community, believe in yourself. Anything is possible. Keep trying.
Some incredible things that I've learned from our conversation so far: never give up, take risk, have fun, be willing to put the hard work, keep building a community, do it with love. What else? What else? What else? Have that energy, because that's not what I that's what I've learned from you. Like, You have the energy for sure. And I think I think by the closing, I want to say this. For me, for me, I'm an artist, but for me, you are also an artist because it's not the canvas always, an artist is not always making it on the canvas. I think you being able to craft this, to visualize this, to put together this business, and I truly believe, like, I feel there's a huge parallel between being an artist and being an entrepreneur. They're two very similar processes. It takes hell lot of amount and hell lot of conviction and creativity and like a balance of everything. So I do think, like, you know having that creativeness, like, you don't know, like an artist, where you don't know where this would go, but you have the faith that this would go somewhere, and even if it wouldn't, you would still go keep doing that.
Exactly. And you got to keep on doing it no matter what. And always be leading by example. If you're the always trying to be the hardest working person there, people want to also be work hard.
We've
Yeah.
learned that from you.
No, but amazing. And thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to speak to you and to be on the podcast and everything like this. And thank you so much for reaching out to me.
Absolutely, it's truly been an honor, and I think you've been so modest, and you've really opened up your heart, and it's it's energetically so amazing that I'm truly grateful to be, that we could have this, even though we're screens apart, sitting in different parts of the world. I truly could take away the energy that you have, and I'm sure when I meet you in person, it would
I
be
can't wait.
totally.
I
I
can't
mean,
wait. I can't wait.
yeah, time we have to do that's one.
But no, anytime you're in New York, come on by, come on
Yes,
by.
yes. Very soon, very soon.
And also, anyone listening to the podcast, come on by to the gallery. We're at 174 sites. Come by, come bother me, come say hi. But amazing. No, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I hope you have a good day. Thank you so much.
Amazing. You too. Bye.